Mercy Otis Warren, Eliza Lucas Pinckney, Betsy Grissom Ross. These and thousands of colonial women like them helped bring about independence from Great Britain. Long before the American Revolution started, many women protested parliamentary taxation by boycotting British tea. Others made their families clothing rather than buy British manufactured goods. Then, when war broke out in 1775, many women ran the family business in their husband's absence, while others aided the Continental Army with food and supplies. Abigail Smith Adams did all these things and more. The wife of a young lawyer, John Adams, she began married life on a farm outside Boston. While her husband worked hard at his law practice, Abigail managed the farm in addition to her family and household chores. In 1768, the Adamses moved to Boston, where John had his law office. It was a turbulent time to live in the Massachusetts capital because the people were upset about taxes. The British Parliament had put duties on glass, paper, paint, lead, and tea. Many colonists did not think the mother country had the right to tax them. In Boston, people boycotted British imports to force repeal of the tax laws. The British responded by sending soldiers to prevent smuggling and preserve order. They camped on Boston Common and drilled every morning in front of the Adams house. Young John was warned not to join the street gangs who teased the soldiers and called them lobsterbacks. John and Abigail were strong supporters of the colonists' boycott. When cousin Sam Adams came to talk politics over dinner, he did without tea.
They can't use their bayonets to force me or any other housewife to buy what we don't want.
One evening, after the children were in bed, Abigail heard bells ringing all over town. Thinking it was a fire alarm, she opened the door and saw soldiers pouring into the street. Soon, John came home with the news. A mob of troublemakers had surrounded a soldier who sent for help. The angry crowd pressed forward, and the frightened soldiers fired directly into the crowd, killing at least 4 colonists. The next day, John Adams made a courageous decision.
There are Tory lawyers, yes, many and good ones. Why did not Preston choose one of them? I can answer only he did not. He came to me, and a man on trial for his life is entitled to the counsel of his choice.
The unpopular case came to trial in autumn of 1770. So persuasive was John Adams' defense that the jury found only 2 of the soldiers guilty.
The jury did exactly right. Exactly right. And come what may, this was the best action of my life.
In spite of the Boston Massacre case, the Adamses remained staunch rebels. In 1773, when Parliament lowered the price of tea, Bostonians saw this measure as a trick to get them to pay the tea tax.
The tea, that baneful weed, is arrived. Great and I hope effectual opposition has been made to the landing of it. The proceedings of our citizens has been united, spirited, and firm. The flame is kindled, and like lightning it catches from soul to soul. Although the mind is shocked at the thought of shedding human blood, such is the present spirit that prevails, that if once they are made desperate, many of our heroes will spend their lives in the cause.
Boston paid dearly for its Tea Party protest. Parliament sent more troops. The port of Boston was closed, and workmen sat idle around the docks because no trading ships could enter or leave the harbor. Under the circumstances, John decided to move his family back to the farm.
I wanted to prepare myself as well as I could for the storm that was coming on. They could not, indeed, have remained in safety in Boston.
In September of 1774, John Adams left for Philadelphia. He was one of 5 delegates representing Massachusetts at a Congress of the 13 colonies.
I must entreat you, my dear partner, to take a part with me in the struggle. Let us eat potatoes and drink water. Let us wear canvas and undressed sheepskin, rather than submit to the domination that is prepared for us.
Abigail shared John's zeal and wrote him all the news.
I seek wool and flax and work willingly with my hands, and indeed there is occasion for all our industry and economy. I have taken a very great fondness for reading Roland's Ancient History since you left me. I have persuaded Johnny to read me a page or 2 every day, and hope he will entertain a fondness for it. About 8 o'clock Sunday evening, there passed by here about 200 men, preceded by a horse cart. They marched down to the powder house, from whence they took the powder and carried it into the other parish. We have so many Tories here, they dared not trust us with it. In Boston, the governor is making all kinds of warlike preparations, such as mounting cannon upon Beacon Hill, digging entrenchments upon the Neck, placing cannon there, encamping a regiment there, throwing up breastworks, and so on. The people are much alarmed.
John returned from Philadelphia for the winter. By spring, the local militia was training several times a week. The colony seethed with hostility toward the British. On April 19, 1775, the powder keg exploded. At Lexington and then Concord, a force of redcoats skirmished with Massachusetts Minutemen. All day long, Minutemen marched down the road in front of the Adams farmhouse. Passing soldiers stopped for a drink and a rest. The family listened as the soldiers described how several hundred redcoats had been killed or wounded before reaching the safety of Boston. Several weeks later, John Adams returned to the Congress at Philadelphia.
It would take many sheets of paper to give you a description of the reception we found here. The militia were all in arms, and almost the whole city out to meet us.
I suppose you have had an account of the alarm we had here last Sunday morning. Our house has been a scene of confusion. Soldiers coming in for a lodging, for breakfast, for supper, for drink. Sometimes refugees from Boston, tired and fatigued, seek asylum for a day, a night, a week. You can hardly imagine how we live.
Our prospect of a union with the colonies is promising indeed. Never was there such a spirit. Our province is nowhere blamed. The accounts of the battle are exaggerated in our favor. This Congress will support Massachusetts.
Politics was far from Abigail's thoughts.
Charleston is laid in ashes. The battle began upon our entrenchments upon Bunker's Hill Saturday morning about 3 o'clock and has not ceased yet. And it is now 3 o'clock Sabbath afternoon. 10,000 reports are passing, vague and uncertain as the wind. It is expected they will come out over the Neck tonight, and a dreadful battle must ensue. How many have fallen? We know not. The constant roar of cannon is so distressing that we cannot eat, drink, or sleep. I shall tarry here till it is thought unsafe by my friends, and then I have secured myself a retreat at your brother's.
You are really brave, my dear. You are a heroine and have reason to be. I can now inform you that the Congress have made choice of the modest and virtuous, the brave George Washington to be General of the American Army, and that he is to repair to the camp before Boston.
In Boston, I am told, it is very sickly among the inhabitants and soldiery, most of them destitute of wood and provisions of every kind. The bakers say, unless they have a new supply of wood, they cannot bake above 1 fortnight longer. 'Tis a dreadful time with the whole province. Sickness and death are in almost every family. Our house is a hospital in every part. By the first safe conveyance, be kind enough to send me 1 ounce of turkey rhubarb, the root. So much sickness has occasioned a scarcity of medicine. The appointment of the Generals Washington and Lee gives universal satisfaction. I had the pleasure of seeing both the generals soon after their arrival. I was struck with General Washington. Modesty marks every line and feature of his face.
The siege of Boston continued through the winter. Then, in March of 1776, Abigail wrote,
I hear we got possession of Dorchester Hill last night. 4,000 men upon it today. A most terrible and incessant cannonade from 8:30 until 6 this morning. They had placed their cannons so as to fire upon the top of the hill. And when they did fire, they overshot our people, and not 1 man lost. Since last week, there have been some movements amongst the troops, as if they meant to evacuate the town of Boston. They have been plundering the town, and they have carried away everything they could possibly take. From Penn's Hill, we have a view of the largest fleet ever seen in America. The ships are drawn round the town. You may count upwards of 170 sail. They look like a forest. The more I think of our enemies quitting Boston, the more amazed I am that they should leave such a harbor, and that we should be in peaceable possession of a town which we expected would cost us a river of blood, without 1 drop shed.
By summer, Congress was moving toward separation from Great Britain.
I long to hear that you have declared an independency. And by the way, in the new code of laws, I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors.
John could not imagine what had gotten into his wife.
As to your extraordinary code of laws, I cannot but laugh. Depend upon it, we know better than to repeal our masculine systems.
Then on July 3rd, 1776, John Adams wrote,
Yesterday, the greatest question was decided whichever was decided in America. A resolution was passed without 1 dissenting colony, that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states.
Last Thursday, I went with the multitude into King Street to hear the proclamation for independence read and proclaimed. The bells rang, the privateers fired, the cannon was discharged, the platoons followed, and every face appeared joyful. I cannot but be sorry that some of the most manly sentiments in the Declaration are expunged from the printed copy. I wish most sincerely that there was not a slave in the province. It always appeared a most iniquitous scheme to me, to fight ourselves for what we are daily robbing and plundering from those who have as good a right to freedom as we have.
In 1779, Congress appointed John Adams a minister with power to negotiate a peace treaty with Great Britain. He and the older Adams boys left for Paris in November. It was 3 years before the peace treaty with Great Britain was signed, and the United States won independence. When the war was over, Abigail joined John in 1784. She was happy to have the family reunited once again, although she did not think much of Paris.
One thing I know, and that is I have smelt it. It is the very dirtiest place I ever saw.
The obligations of a minister's wife kept Abigail busy. As many as 20 persons attended formal dinners at the Adams household. Guests such as the Marquis de Lafayette, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson. The opera with its ballet offended Abigail's Puritan standards.
The first dance which I saw up on the stage shocked me. I was ashamed to be seen to look at them. Girls clothed in the thinnest silken gauze, and their petticoats short, springing 2 feet from the floor, and as perfectly showing their garters and drawers as though no petticoat had been worn, was a sight altogether new to me.
The following year, Congress appointed John Adams America's ambassador to Great Britain, and the family moved to London.
Grosvenor Square is one of the finest squares in London. It is but a small distance from Hyde Park, round which I sometimes walk, but oftener ride.
Ambassador Adams was presented to King George.
I think myself more fortunate than all my fellow subjects in having the distinguished honor to be the first to stand in your Majesty's presence in a diplomatic character.
And the king replied,
I will be very frank with you. I was the last to consent to the separation, but the separation having been made, I have always said, as I say now, that I would be the first to meet the friendship of the United States as an independent power.
Next, Abigail and her daughter met the king and queen. To her sister, Abigail wrote,
The king is a personable man, but he has a certain countenance, a red face, and white eyebrows. The queen was in purple and silver. She is not well shaped or handsome, but don't you tell anybody that I say so. The queen was evidently embarrassed when I was presented to her. I had disagreeable feelings too.
Abigail saw London's most famous actress perform.
I saw Mrs. Siddons in Macbeth, a play full of horror. She was interesting beyond any actress I have ever seen. Much of Shakespeare's language is so uncouth that it sounds very harsh.
Of the Handel Festival, she said,
The most powerful effect of music I ever experienced was at Westminster Abbey. I was at the piece called The Messiah.
In 1788, John Adams asked and received permission from Congress to return home.
God willing, once I set my foot on American ground, not all the embassies in Europe consolidated into one shall tempt me again to quit it.
But the farmhouse would have to wait. Instead, home for the Adamses was New York City, where John presided over the Senate of the United States because he had been elected the country's first vice president. Abigail's public duties continued.
I took the earliest opportunity to go and pay my respects to Mrs. Washington. She received me with great ease and politeness. I found myself much more deeply impressed than I ever did before their Majesties of Britain.
In 1797, John Adams succeeded Washington to the presidency.
My feelings are not those of pride or ostentation upon the occasion. They are solemnized by a sense of the obligations, the important trusts, and numerous duties connected with it.
America's second First Lady was now busier than ever.
At 5 I rise. From that time till 8 I breakfast, after which till 11 I attend to my family arrangements. From 12 until 2, I receive company, sometimes until 3. We dine at that hour. After dinner, I usually ride out until 7.
At Philadelphia's 4th of July celebration, the Adamses hosted hundreds of government officials.
We must have all the gentlemen of the city, the governor and officers and companies. More than 200 pounds of cake and 2-quart casks of wine besides spirit. Long tables are set in the house and yard.
When in 1800 Washington, D.C. became the nation's permanent capital, the Adamses moved into the President's house.
The house is upon a grand and superb scale, requiring about 30 servants to attend and keep the apartments in proper order. The river, which runs up to Alexandria, is in full view of my window, and I see the vessels as they pass and repass. But there is not a single apartment finished. We have not the least fence, yard, or other convenience. And the great unfinished audience room I make a drying room of, to hang up the clothes in. The principal stairs are not up, and will not be this winter.
In January of 1801, the first New Year's reception was held in the President's house. President and Mrs. Adams received distinguished guests in the Oval Room. It was their final social event before retirement to the farm at Quincy.
So long as we are inhabitants of this earth, we cannot be indifferent to the state of our country, our posterity, and our friends. We have passed through one revolution and have happily arrived at the goal. We have our firesides, our comfortable habitations, our cities, our churches, and our country to defend, our rights, privileges, and independence to preserve.